If you've ever found yourself spiraling down a late-night rabbit hole of what am I meant to do and why haven't I found it yet? And let's be honest, who hasn't? Then you're in the right place. I'm Theresa White, career clarity expert and 5-time certified career coach, and I'm here to help you navigate the question of how to find a career that truly lights you up. On Career Clarity Unlocked, we're all about those light bulb moments. I'm talking to people who are still trying to figure out what they're meant to do, coaching them live to reach that magical, yes, this is it moment. And we'll also hear from those who've already found their dream careers and figure out exactly how they did it. Whether you're looking for inspiration or actionable advice on finding a career you love, I've got you covered. Time to unlock some career clarity. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Career Clarity Unlocked. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly saw yourself so much more clearly than you ever have before? Not necessarily because someone told you who you are, but because someone helped you zoom out, look at your career with fresh eyes, and finally help you connect the dots. That can be a moment where you realize, like, oh, this isn't just a random pattern. This is who I really am. Or the thing that I keep doing, that is actually a strength. And no wonder that I love these types of projects and somewhat dread the other ones. And that's the kind of career clarity that really changes everything. And today, you're in for a treat because I am sharing a part of a real coaching session with my client, Anna. She has been in marketing for over 7 years, moved up incredibly fast. She's a full stack marketer, a fractional CMO, a regional leader, and ops strategist. You name it, she's done it. And she came to the session curious, asking, what actually lights me up most? And what does my next level look like? And it was one of those beautiful conversations where things just clicked. You're going to hear us unpack her Sparketype. Her primary Sparketype is the scientist. Scientists come alive when they can pursue burning questions, wicked problems, puzzles, riddles, and quandaries. They see things in need of figuring out. It is the problem-solving process that sparks them the most. Her shadow Sparketype is the Maven. Mavens are all about learning. They have a lifelong desire to learn, to know, to keep going, to become wiser. They are fueled by a near primal drive to know more. And we're going to be talking about what it means to be someone who needs to figure things out to be fulfilled. We're going to talk about research, systems, autonomy, and the moment that she realized she is hungry for bigger, more complex challenges. So if you're the type who loves solving problems, gets excited by a good puzzle, and secretly dreads doing the same thing twice, this is going to be your episode. What we have coming up for you is a clip from Anna's coaching session, and then I'm going to break down the insights that she had and how they might apply to you. And then finally, I'm going to walk you through how to identify your own spark and use it to guide your next move. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Theresa White, career clarity expert and 5-time certified career coach, and I am the only coach who guarantees clients career clarity in 30 days. Clients consistently call our sessions epiphanies and an answer to questions they've been asking for years. And when you hear this coaching episode, you will understand why. So grab your coffee, take a walk, or settle in, and let's dive into the kind of clarity that makes your whole career make sense. Welcome, Anna, to Career Clarity Unlocked. So let's start with, and I know you had already shared with me your background, and I have your resume, but if you in a nutshell can share your professional journey up to this point, that would be super helpful because it's always different to hear from you than reading it on a resume.
Yeah, no. So for me, I started out in marketing. Really, at the beginning of my career, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I really enjoyed economics, psychology, business, and I also had like this creative side too. And I kind of realized early on in college, luckily, that marketing was something that I really enjoyed doing because it puts all those things together.
Yeah.
And that's how I landed up doing marketing, and the rest is history. I've been doing marketing now 7 years, and I've worked with startups all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. And so it's been a really cool and incredible journey to start out basically working a graphic design role, but wearing a ton of hats working for an agency. Also, like people that I've met along the way, and most recent, so to bring you all the way to today, working at ATI Restoration as a senior regional marketing manager has been a really incredible journey. I got promoted within the first year, and I've always had some sort of regional B2B sales enablement component to a lot of the high level roles that I've done. But really with this role, it was even more elevated of now overseeing multiple offices across 7 states, getting to travel a lot. And that's kind of where I realized, wow, like I really enjoy traveling. It's really fun for me. And it's really amazing to be able to be in person with all these people that I've met online, over Zoom through different meetings, and to be able to really sit down with them. And I, also have been a people leader too, like early on. Really that first marketing director role was kind of my first introductory, like go at like leading a team. And it was like 6 different people because I had a committee that I was overseeing and had to hire and train people in to be a part of. And then I also had a very small marketing team. So it was kind of like crazy very early on to have like that, responsibility, but I'm really thankful. And I think it's lent itself well to where I'm at today. And I really do love, traveling and working on regional, national initiatives and all things digital marketing. So, yeah.
It's amazing. Like you've had such a steep move in your career. It's incredible. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
clearly enjoy what you're doing, which is so beautiful to see. And that brings us to your Sparketype. For our listeners, I just want to give a quick overview. So your Sparketype profile, the primary is the scientist, the shadow, the maven, and the anti, the performer. So what this suggests, and we'll find out if this resonates or not, and either one is totally fine. The scientist is the love for figuring things out and solving problems. That is suggests that feels energizing to you as your primary. The maven is the love for learning and seeking more knowledge and going deeper. And the anti, that is more not something we're good or bad at. The Sparketype does not tell us what we're good or bad at, but that is can be more of an energy drain. So I already picked up on some of the scientists, and you tell me if that resonates or not. But you said with the podcast, like, I'll figure it out. Have I done exactly that? No, I'll figure it out. And that I can do anything attitude. I wonder if that comes from that place of like, even if I haven't done it yet, I'll figure it out how to get it done.
Absolutely. And it's interesting as I was kind of reading into, the scientists and exactly like who they are as a person and what they thrive and what type of environments they really enjoy and get energy from. Yeah, it was really interesting because for me, I have found that I really enjoy environments where it's like I get to learn and grow. And I have always somehow found my way into roles where that's a reality. Like I have to do that in order to thrive in the role. And so part of me wonders, I'm like, okay, like had my career been a little bit different, would I still have like that same, I don't know, would I still gravitate towards that? But I do. Yeah, I really enjoy learning, growing, and I have found that it's allowed me to transition quickly between different industries where some people, it might take a little bit longer for them to fully get on board with the new industry, understand the ins and outs. But for me, I've really had to jump into brand new industries. I mean, starting right away with working at an agency, right? We had hundreds of clients that we worked with. And so you had to really do a deep dive, right? Before you worked with any client, depending on what projects you were involved with. And so even now, I think still too, yeah, to this day, I like, yeah, there's that part of me that just has, yeah, I don't know what else to add there, but
Yeah, no, I love that. And so there is a part of this, I'll figure it out. I love, like, if there is a problem or a question of like, I'm gonna crack this problem. I'm gonna figure out how we're gonna do that. Did that part resonate, or is there another part of the scientist that resonated specifically for you?
I would say, yeah, like getting energy from figuring things out, yes. But then also, I really resonated with me how, correct me if I'm wrong, this other part of how you actually really enjoy like environments where you are forced into like always finding, being strategic, coming up with a new plan, streamlining something, right? Doing deep dives. I wouldn't say that I necessarily love doing deep dives, but I think that's also one of the things that it mentions is like you don't necessarily have to do a deep dive, or it might not be something that you really enjoy, but you're like really good at it. And because you are kind of like more in that scientist like category, that's something that you kind of gravitate towards and you're good at. Maybe it's not your favorite thing. I don't know. So there's a couple things that I noticed and I was like, yeah.
What was one of your favorite, I don't even want to use the word project because it doesn't have to be a project. What was one of your favorite memories or times at work where you got to figure something out, like where there was something that you needed to figure out?
So many different stories. Like, how do I?
Pick one, whatever, whichever one, doesn't matter.
Most recently, I would say, so there was a project, basically the issue coming into the role. So this is actually with ATI. There's a huge need for streamlining the process around trade shows. And also there's a big issue with tracking. There was a huge gap in, hey, we met with these people, and then after the trade show, there was no accountability really, and then also no way to really track who we had connected with. There wasn't really any data that was anywhere accessible, easily accessible. It was like super old school on like spreadsheets everywhere, and you're like, wow. Okay, and so that was something that early on I realized, okay, number one, we have to fix this. And I really took initiative and told my VPs of sales, I was like, all right, we're gonna do this. I was like, hey, basically put together this whole plan. And I really enjoyed it because I was like, okay, once we get this figured out, once we close these gaps that are currently existing, we'll be able to, number one, determine if we should continue going to these shows, because a lot of money was going out the door, right? You see that all the time. Trade shows are expensive, right? So there was no way to really track ROI. We just spent like, goodness knows, like how much on this show, and we can't even track the ROI from it. That's not good, right? And so worked to basically put together, I did a ton of research, deep dive early on, and kind of, collaboration is really important. So one of the things I did early on is I was like, okay, this program, this new SOP, it needs to have advocates. And so early on was working to get alignment and buy-in from all the different VPs of sales, and also on the operations side a little bit, wanted them to know, hey, this is something we're working on, because they also care about cost too.
Right.
And they see their BDMs, the regional managers of our offices, they'll see their BDMs go off to events, and then they want to know, hey, okay, well, where did this actually convert to revenue for the company, right? And so it was just really fun, to collaborate with everyone and get everybody on board. And then from there, we kind of embarked on this journey of, I proposed an initial plan. So a lot of looking at software and our CRM, to building out reports that were really robust within our CRM to make sure that we could actually showcase individuals that, converted to contacts within our system, that started out as leads, converted to contacts, were associated with that trade show name campaign. We were able to filter down the report so it could showcase exactly how much revenue was tied to each of those different trade shows based off of the contacts and, their connection to a job within our CRM. So it was really cool. Worked with our CTO and his team, our CRM support team, to really kind of build that out and make sure it was functioning and working well. And then also like on the email marketing side of things, really helped our marketing department level up how we were showing up really with doing outreach before and then also after. And yeah, it was really cool to see building a plan for the BDMs and how they should be showing up before and after the show. And just to kind of make that very clear in terms of what our expectations really were for them. And also how there would be accountability after the show, right? Because now we have everything, we have this lead scanner that we were going to move forward, nationally for the company, that we would be using at all of our trade shows. And then sometimes we would rent a lead scanner, but regardless, we had a system for how we would get these leads into our CRM. And now it was all trackable, right? We worked to develop a dashboard, if you will, where once emails were deployed, those leads would basically get pushed over into our CRM, and then they'd be added to a dashboard. And that's where the VP, as the leader, could kind of see and kind of keep track of, okay, is my team actually following through and talking to these people, right?
Right.
Talk to all these different people and told me it was amazing, really great experience, and we should definitely do this again next year, right? But okay, here's the actual tangible piece of all these people, and also tracking activity on the different leads, and did they end up converting? Right? So we didn't drop the ball there. So
Yeah.
a lot of really cool things that we worked on, or that I worked on, and then had a bunch of team members kind of come alongside and partner with me on. But it was a really cool project, rolled it out nationwide, and that's what we use to this day. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And I want to dive deeper into it. And it's really cool because this project shows from problem identification of, okay, we need to streamline how we're tracking and operating from the marketing perspective on trade shows, to you creating a plan and then executing.
Yeah.
When you think back to that, what were some of the favorite things that you did? Specific things, what were pieces of this whole process where you're like, oh, that was just so much fun. I wish that I would want to do that every day.
It's funny because, maybe if you talked to me a year ago, I would have been like, that wasn't my favorite part. But looking back on it now today, I would say for me, I really enjoyed the early on research part of it, where I got to really, deep dive into all the different areas that we were going to optimize, change, and kind of reshape into a plan that would really work and be effective for our company. And, not just because we also had to think about, national versus regional, and then also local events, right? So it's huge scope with which I had to kind of make sure the framework with which I was building out would apply to all these different areas.
Right.
But then within, regardless of what, almost the hierarchy of national to regional to local, depending on, what I was proposing for each of those, that was slightly different, maybe variant. It really was interesting to deep dive into how we are going to show up better with social media, email marketing, fixing and optimizing our CRM, the report within our CRM, building out campaigns, and then also working to establish really great systems within our CRM so that, there's a dashboard, right, for the BDMs. There's, and just looking at what other companies were doing for lead scanners, right? And then also showing up our booth displays, right? One of the other things we've gone through recently is a rebrand. And so we took that time from all the feedback that I've been gathering for a while, right, from my BDMs of what they want to change, what needs to change, what really annoys them about our booth displays, whatever, right? And so that also was a part of the research that I did. And it was just really fun to, do a deep dive into all of that. So
that's so cool. And that brings us to your Sparketype, the Maven, that love for learning or researching. And with the Sparketype, there's often a kind of a circular pattern. So your primary, the scientist, the love for figuring things out, and the shadow, the Maven, that deep dive research, learning, that there's a feedback loop of okay, there's a problem we need to figure out, and which is we need to streamline our whole process for trade shows and how we do the tracking. Okay, in order to figure this out, I need to learn and research all these areas. And then, okay, this helps me figure this out. And then I need to learn more to understand that next part. And that allows me to figure this part out or solve that problem. Can you see, is that something that resonates for you? How let me learn and deep dive into that, and then I can figure that out and learn more and figure this next piece out till it all comes together as the proposed SOP plan that you then eventually rolled out.
No, absolutely. I think even outside of this project, as we were talking, I was just thinking about all the other projects, initiatives that I've been involved with. And for me, I really feel fulfilled at work when I do. I have like almost like that cycle that you're talking about of like, okay, identifying a problem, having the autonomy to go after, like building a solution, and then doing a deep dive into the research and figuring out how can we best approach this? What are the best solutions? Maybe it's a new software. Maybe it's getting rid of a software that's currently in existent at our company that is not needed and is too much budget wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that definitely resonates for sure.
Yeah. And that also, I really see that this is a superpower that you have. Because it's a huge project, right?
Mhm.
For streamlining this entire process that you explained. It's a big project. A lot of people would be like, no, thank you. Uh, but you're like, it seems like to really feel energizing for you, be like, give it to me. I'll figure out. I know this company has never tracked their trade shows and the data, and we have no idea. And you come in and be like, let me figure this out. We're gonna create a process here that's gonna work.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's one of those interesting things for me where I am really thankful for roles like this where I have the autonomy to jump in and do that. I know not every company is open to that, right? Like sometimes there's so much red tape. I mean, even with, the larger the company, the more red tape you have.
Yes.
But it is one of those things for me where I find like meaning in it, and I just really enjoy helping people. I think another one of the reasons why I really care about like, okay, how can I problem solve? How can I do a deep dive and then provide a solution is just because I really value growth. Like growth is kind
Mhm.
of my core, one of my biggest values. And
Yes.
for me, I think that really kind of translates into every area and obviously into my career. And so for me too, I also have always been, okay, like if there is an issue, like I want to be able to solve that. Like not only does that, position yourself well within a company, but it also showcases your ability to diagnose a problem and then also provide a solution and then actually see that solution through to execution stage and to completion.
Yeah.
And that just says a lot. And I think, um, so I'm almost like hungry for opportunities like that. So when I do find when something presents itself, I'm like, oh, we have a problem. I'm willing to dive in, even if it does feel like, because quite frankly, it was one of those things where, like I mentioned, there are so many different components to this like SOP and so many different teams that I was working on, right? And some people were a little bit maybe behind other teams in terms of their priority or
Hmm.
prioritization of this SOP, right? And so that was something that I had to constantly like live in that tension throughout the entirety of, building it out from, the idea stage to execution, right? And so implementation, it was definitely interesting to navigate that. Because
Yes.
obviously for me, I was like, go, 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 go mode, like,
Yeah.
let's get this done. Whereas like other
Right.
people were like, well, we could wait until next year. And I was like, okay, well, we did that. We're going to be in the same place next year, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't have to be, like, if we all dedicate like a little bit of time. So it was a lot of, working with people where they were at and getting them on board that bus of being actually excited, like, okay, let's go on
Hmm.
this journey together. Let's partner, let's collaborate, right? Everybody likes to feel like they have buy-in, and that
Yeah.
ultimately gets you to really great end result where everybody's happy and they've been involved since day one, right? So they feel included, and uh,
Right.
so yeah.
And that made it successful in the end.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have really a very special ability to identify problems, see problems, and then having the mindset of like, we're gonna figure this out, we're gonna solve this, and you go into the deep dive, getting everyone on board, learning. And I wonder if a part of that learning and deep dive is also understanding what people do and how they
Mm.
are part of this entire process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you have all the information, then you can figure that one part out and then learn more, dive deeper, figure that next part out. It makes so much sense that growth is super important to you. That is so aligned because both the Maven and scientist, they thrive on the Maven needs new things to learn or research or dive deep into. What what is it new? It always needs an area too. That can be the same area where we go deeper for some people, and for others, it's newer areas. But there's always that hunger of like, I want to dive into something. I want to research something that catches my interest. And then the scientist needs new problems to figure out. And I think from what I've understand from your career journey, you've been you found really aligned roles. A challenge I see with Maven scientists a lot is that they get into a role where, let's say, the proposed SOP plan or the SOP plan. Okay, there's a challenge, so much learning. They develop the SOP plan, and now it's like, now you're going to maintain this for the rest of your life. And that is where where it suddenly feels like it's stifling, stuck of like, I can't, like maintenance is not fun. I need to give me the new project to learn and dive into. Have you experienced any of that?
Yeah, anything that feels mundane or repetitive, I find boring. It doesn't interest me. It's something I've always had to like work a little bit harder to stay on top of things like that. You know, obviously simple things, connecting with people if there's some sort of human connection involvement, right? Like emails or picking up the phone, right? Like I do enjoy that, like hopping on a Zoom call, connecting with people. I am, you know, somewhat of an extrovert. I'm kind of also an introvert. So I always call myself like an ambivert because I'm kind of both. But it's always been interesting that for me personally, like, yes, I found my way into, obviously these roles where it's felt very aligned. But yeah, to your point, it's anytime there's something where there's no optimization required, maybe it's the continued implementation of like making sure that like check back in, making sure the team is like still using this tool or still using the plan that I rolled out. I do find that to be, it's almost like I wish I could just hand that off to somebody in a way.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
hey, here you go.
Yes.
You handle the long-term maintenance, or like if there's optimization, if we need to go back and do some research
You're
again.
all in.
Like, absolutely, I'm there.
Yes.
But no, that's so interesting that you say that, because it definitely is something that I've seen, not just with my current role, but kind of in general. Like if there's like that regular, I've had to work maybe harder than other people at staying consistent and disciplined. Yeah. Because I lose interest.
And that is so common for people who have a similar wiring, because the mundane, the repetitive, that continued implementation maintenance, it doesn't give you enough opportunities to research, dive deep, learn, figure things out, solve the problem, have challenges that can be overcome. It's just mundane.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot with people, specifically Maven scientists, that anytime they get into a new role, there's this obviously a beginning learning curve that is super exciting. You have to figure out all the things in this new role. There's so much to learn. There's some processes that need to be optimized. But once all that is taken care of, it's like, and then they are like, okay, what's wrong? Like, I used to love this role, but now it feels so mundane and stuck and flat. I need something more. And it's because the learning curve and the figuring things out has run dry.
Yeah, no, that definitely paints a very close picture to how I feel.
Yes.
I'm curious, what would your recommendation be to people that have like my similar type of like scientist and Maven? What should, obviously I mentioned like sometimes it's like you just hunker down, you get disciplined, and you just work maybe a little bit harder than the average person to like really stay focused. But how do you still find, energy and motivation when you're in scenarios like that, where it's like, because I've definitely hit roles where it's like after you do all that like initial work and onboarding, and then it's like, okay, now we're at a good place. And I'm like, well, this is good.
Perfect.
But also not good.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that is the big question. So one, obviously career growth is one, right? If you move up you get more challenges. There is also like, so there is no right or wrong that would work for everyone. Some people might be of like, okay, it's just mundane and repetitive. I accept it and find opportunities, pockets. Where can I learn? Where can I figure something out?
Yeah.
And that might be fulfilling enough for them. For the majority, they want new challenges. So finding roles where there is continued need for that, that can be on a project based, where you like, okay, process optimization, like marketing process optimization. Your
Yeah.
job is to optimize this process, hand it off, get a new process to optimize.
Yeah. Okay.
The consulting type of roles where you're really the expert in how can we optimize this, and that comes with so much learning and figuring things out, creating that plan, seeing through the implementation, but then handing it off. Those are often the roles that are the ones that give you that continuous fuel of challenge and learning and growth.
Okay.
Does any of that resonate for you?
No, that's interesting that, well, okay, so I'll start with the consulting piece. So for me, one of the things that I've done over the last like 5 years is to stay like competitive, but then also to just continue to grow outside of my main role in corporate. I wanted to have like some sort of, agency, whatever, right, that was running that where I could take on clients. And so to this day, it's been now, I guess, beginning of January will be 6 years, but I've had, like, for me, I've had, I've worked as a fractional CMO on the side and spent time, going out. And it's funny you say consulting, because while I love doing some of those longer term projects, for me, I really enjoy kind of like that beginning stage of, okay, how can we help you? How can we put a plan together? And then, but it's interesting when you say like the handoff piece. I think that's something that I've kind of always wondered, like, in terms of that next stage, obviously I can hand them off to like another colleague or somebody that I really trust in the marketing space that has exactly what they need. And even like you were saying with some of these other roles, so like kind of going back into like corporate, putting my corporate hat on, of like, that is interesting. It would be so cool to be in a role where I could like problem solve, research, whatever, provide a solution, and then get another problem area put on my lap. Like that would be amazing. Like I don't I've never thought about that before, but yeah, no, that would be really, really interesting role for me to be in.
And
So,
that is,
yeah.
I do believe, where you bring the most value.
Yeah.
Because, there's people
Huh.
who are amazing at the maintenance and they love refining and repeating and that. But where you really shine is to, one, get new projects, but then as you grow in your career, more complex problems, challenges, bigger, more complex challenges and problems that require your skills of understanding, researching, and you're someone who gets it really quick. So when you come into a new space of like, okay, let me figure this out. Okay, did my research, solution, and then hand off. You guys run it. I take on the next one. Um, and I do think that there is the most growth for you in that sphere.
Yeah, this is all very interesting because, obviously I told you Teresa before, but like I haven't really done, this test before. So this is all like brand new for me. I've been like learning so much about like Sparketypes, and I didn't even know it was a thing until recently. And so just here, obviously I'm hearing a lot of this for the first time, and wow, I wish I would have learned this sooner. Or just understood this about myself, because you're whether you're working on your own as a part of an agency or whatever, or you're working in corporate or for some company, you look at all your different team members, and some of them are like, I've seen team members where it's like they thrive and like that mundane, like keep it steady, keep it turning around, like the exact same thing, like they're good at that, like that doesn't, or at least they've learned to be good at it, right? And for me personally, I've always wondered, where do I fit? Like I've always felt a little bit of like that one person in the room that doesn't quite fit. Like I can hang, I can be there, but I've always just been like, wait, I don't know. So it's just, this is all really interesting to
Ah,
hear.
And it's beautiful from looking at it from a leadership organizational perspective because we're all wired differently. And there's some really cool stuff that Jonathan Fields with the Spark team does for organizations. But if we just think about it, like I'm a scientist too. So
Are
for
you
me, it's all a
okay?
puzzle. Yes,
Okay.
I'm a fellow scientist. Um, like everyone is energized by something different.
Mhm.
And there are people that are very energized by what might feel mundane to us. That gives them the satisfaction that we get from figuring something out. They get that satisfaction from taking care of a customer or teaching one thing to someone else or like, right, everyone is different.
Yeah.
So finding what everyone is energized by and allowing them to do more of that, the
Yeah.
productivity of the entire team is transformed. And where your superpower lies is really in this.
Mhm.
Let me figure things out and let me learn and research so I can solve bigger, more challenging problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing as we're talking, I just, you know how, some companies do this and some don't, but I don't know. I kind of want to have my teams take this test. I'm like, I feel like this would be so interesting to understand all of our types and really get into like the nitty-gritty of things. And I mean, for me, like even right now, I feel like as we've been talking, so many different things have resonated, or I'm hearing it in a way that I've never heard it before, and then it's making sense and like this whole new like opportunity of like what could actually look like a dream role for me, right? Like whereas before maybe I was a little bit more foggy, I feel like I'm getting so much more clarity on like, oh, like if I went this route, like that would actually not, I don't have to like go into it wondering, okay, like this is going to be new. Let's see, like, does this really fit, right? I don't know. I just, with that clarity, that added clarity from what we've been talking about with my type, it just feel like kind of helps eliminate some of that fog and is like, no, like this would be a really good path for you to go down. So this is like really helpful. But yeah.
I can come into your team. I'm also trained in team facilitation on the
Okay.
Sparketype
Yeah.
and helping teams this psychological safety explore, because that is really big in organizations, explore their Sparketypes and then bring it together in a team of how can we optimize the entire team by
Yeah.
shifting work so
Yeah.
that everyone has more of what fuels them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much good stuff. I have two other thoughts that I want to. So one thought, and that is when you filled out the form, you said eventually teach college students as an adjunct professor. Well, actually, let me before that say, I love that you're doing the fractional CMO on the side because that is also a way to keep that cycle going, right? As a fractional CMO, you're not generally maintaining, you're coming in, doing something, moving on. So that's one beautiful way. Um, and then the other thought you had for the future is teach college students as an adjunct professor. How how is that vision for you? How does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I have some professors that I really look up to, and their kind of path was, they worked in corporate for a while and then they ended up, during that time completing their masters and then going the route of teaching at least 1 to 2, just fully virtual online, classes at a university. And some of them like teach at multiple universities. And, I have friends as well that do that. And so for me, I really care about impact and helping other people, not make the same mistakes I did, or just, any opportunity I can to come alongside. I really do value and enjoy mentorship, especially over the last few years. I've been finding that that's something that actually really brings me life. I know some people might not like that, but I do. It's fun to like help other people succeed. Like I really do enjoy, and especially in the marketing space, like I've had so many conversations with marketers, and it reminds me of where I was when I first started. Of, oh no, I don't have experience. Every job description requirement out there says you must have like at least 3 years of experience, right? Unless it's like an internship, a very, very low level role. And so it's tough, as a marketer to get started, right? And oftentimes we are considered to be like kind of that added bonus department, right? And so because of that, it's really important to understand how to make marketing a revenue driver for your company. And so that's something that I've had to learn the hard way. But they've also had like different professors who have been able to kind of help me along my journey. And so for me, I really do value that space where I could teach, again, fully virtual. I really like my flexibility, autonomy. So I wouldn't want to go in person.
Right.
Like I would love to do like, I've, done different courses where it's, you either do like a live class option and then you have like a pre-recorded, or you do both or just one or the other, right? Like I'd be open to that, where I could do anywhere in the world. Because I also like to travel. So yeah.
I think that's a beautiful vision. And also that that mentorship and teaching and guiding others are other things that fills your bucket. Because it's not, the Sparketype is never black and white. It's not like learning and figuring things out is the only thing that ever energizes you. It's not like that. There's also other things that also fill your bucket. And it seems like that mentorship, and both in your leadership roles as well as thinking about helping students. What I would invite you to think about is, and I don't think that is that is actually your plan anyway, but I do think going back and getting a master's degree, so fulfilling. That fills the Maven, right? That gives you opportunities to learn more. If you were to ever think about like teaching full time, there's the research part of being a professor is very fulfilling for a scientist. It's learning, figuring things out, researching, right? The teaching, if you teach the same course every semester, for me as a scientist, it feels stifling. It could be totally different for someone else because it could give you energy from connecting with the students, the mentorship, the guidance. But that might be something to keep in mind. How would it feel for you? It would feel so fun and exciting. I can imagine creating the curriculum and figuring out, what do I want to teach? How do I want to teach it? How do I get them involved? Doing this repetitively, just something to think about.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do that, but the way you think about it, a lot of times, I'll share that with you too, is what I see with Miss Mavens so often is that we sometimes can mix up that learning about something is different than doing something. And I'm going to use a completely different example to illustrate, or I'm going to use two examples. I work with a lot of clients who studied psychology, interestingly.
Yes.
Because they're like, they're all Mavens. The human mind is fascinating. I want to understand everything about the human mind and psychology and why people behave and how people think and all that. They love studying. Then they become therapists and their work shifts. It's from being with someone, sitting with someone. And suddenly they're so unfulfilled and they don't understand why, because they found it so interesting in college. But learning is a very different skill or task than being with someone. And then the same, like I just talked to someone who's a Maven, and she's actually in marketing, but burned out and was like, I want to make a career change. And she's like, I just got so fascinated by Pilates. I just want to learn everything. I want to know every bone in the body and why certain exercises do whatever they are doing. And I want to know it all. She's like, maybe I should become a Pilates instructor. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's think about it. The learning makes so much sense. But then when you are the instructor, your job is being in front of the class and guiding others through these exercises. How does that part feel? And she's like, oh my God, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. So that's also something to keep in mind for the Maven.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, how I've always envisioned it, and I guess maybe I'd have to like go to different colleges to do this, but I've always imagined, like doing like a different, course, whatever it might be. So that kind of makes sense now. based off of our conversation. Obviously,
Yeah.
today I'm like walking away with so many
Yes.
different nuggets of like, oh, okay.
Right.
So that's helpful to know and hear kind of how other mavens have kind of worked through
Yeah.
their, process
Yeah.
of going through school and determining like, okay, what do I want to do next? What does this look like? Maybe, and it sounds like for some of these people, it's like, well, no, just stay in research. Like if you're a Maven, just be
If
in
you're a
research.
Maven, research can be fulfilling for a
Really?
lot of
Okay.
people. But there's Mavens who love to go deep into a subject, and there's other Mavens who love new. Mavens always go below the surface, but they feel like I want new things to learn about.
Mhm.
Um, and they don't actually enjoy that super deep dive research.
Okay.
Yeah. And wait, what? There was another thought. And this is just speaking from my perspective. If I think of it, and this is the work I actually do, is I love figuring something out, but I'll notice that if I teach it over and over, I can do it. It's
Mhm.
okay. But what I much rather do is I figure something out and using a really easy example, how to write the best resume possible. I'll learn everything about it. I figure it out. I put it into a structured format, a video, a guide, whatever it is, and then give it to people. And then I come in. So instead of teaching this over and over, I come in and problem shoot of like, okay, they're like, I'm really stuck on this. I don't know how to communicate this or make sense of this. Like, okay, I'll help you figure that out. So it kind of sounds like when you're thinking about the adjunct professor of like, oh, I would have so much fun figuring out like what is the topic they want me to present on, what are their goals, how can we structure that, and then guiding students through it. And then maybe it's actually something, a developed curriculum that you can even sell or others can use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, it's funny. Okay, as you were talking, because well, a little bit earlier when we were talking about how just, your experience of how you're like, okay, I want to learn something new, talk about train on something different than not just the same old, same old. For me, I was wondering like, like, people always build out different courses and then sell those. So like maybe that could be where, deep dive into solving a problem for somebody. And then I just, maybe stay with that for a while and then I shift and move on and find another course that I want to like deep dive and teach people on or
wow. I mean, that could be also an amazing side project,
Mhm.
or it could be full-time work.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as they're big, challenging, hairy topics to dig into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thoughts, questions as we're wrapping up. How do you feel?
I feel good. I think it's really interesting kind of what you were sharing in terms of the different positions that I would actually really thrive in. I have only recently been more so been put in scenarios where I'm doing more of that. And so for me, it's interesting now that we're having this conversation, it's really timely because I'm looking at the future and what I really enjoy versus what I don't, right? Like after you're in marketing first or any career, right? Like you kind of hit that point where you're like, okay, I've done a lot of different things. What specifically for me like really floats my boat? What do I really enjoy? Like what,
Yeah.
motivates you, fills your cup. And so it's just really interesting conversation for me to kind of reflect on and
Yeah.
kind of figure out
Yeah.
like, okay, like here's where I would thrive. Like it's honestly been really helpful. So
Good. And then also, as you're thinking about that, also think about your personal brand. Because you do a million things and you could be known for a million things, but what are the few things you want to be known for? So that can be exactly that of like, you're the person who comes in and can streamline, optimize. I'll figure out like if there's a system that no one has figured out how to streamline or make it work, I'm going to come in and figure this out for you. Um, that you find some language around that and be that, let that be the piece that you're known for, because that also will then attract more of those opportunities. If we know Anna, she's the one, she'll figure this out. She'll
yeah.
streamline this huge process that seems so all over the place. But the one person I think about who can do it is Anna. That way it kind of, right, it flows together of like the personal branding, what you want to be known for, and then the opportunities that it attracts. Did you hear that? Wasn't that such a beautiful moment where things really started to shift and click for her? So now I want to break down what actually happened in the session and why it was such a turning point so that you can use those same insights for your own professional journey and career clarity. So what are all the things that we discovered in this session? The first thing was that Anna realized that figuring things out isn't just something she does. It is part of her wiring. It's more than being just good at solving problems. It's that those moments really energize her. And it is also the through line in every role that she's ever thrived in. It's what makes her feel engaged, useful, alive. And whenever she sees gaps, inefficiencies, she's drawn to them and wants to fix them. So that insight is huge. So for yourself, think about these moments that deeply energize you. What is that through line throughout your journey, your professional journey, where you felt consistently engaged, alive when doing these certain things? And then Anna also identified the pattern of how research fuels problem solving and vice versa. So she identified the cycle of learning, figuring out, learning more, solving more. And that loop is sparking her motivation. She does need a challenge to figure out, which then requires learning, which leads to the new challenge, which requires more learning. It is a beautiful feedback loop, and it explains why she excels in new industries and projects. Think about it for yourself. What is that feedback loop that makes you come alive, that gives you that motivation and joy just because you get to do it? She also gained clarity that she really thrives when she can build and not maintain. She loves optimizing it. But once something is optimized, there's a dip in her energy. It doesn't that she can't do or resents maintenance, but it was clear that this isn't her zone of genius. She lights up during the learning, figuring out, building stage. And once it's working beautifully, she is ready for the next challenge. She also uncovered how vital autonomy is for her and realized how much she values being trusted to figure it out. And her best work happens when she is giving the reins. Micromanagement is a true creativity killer. So for her, autonomy isn't a perk. It really is a must. I also invited her to think about her interest in teaching in a different light. She does have an interest in teaching college level marketing, which is so beautiful. And I love her instinct to wanting to guide others with the knowledge that she gained over the years. And I invited her to think about how she would feel about a repeated delivery of content versus designing curricula or solving the how do I teach this puzzle. And she had the insight that the creation of structure or figuring this out, how can we package this into an effective learning material, might light her up more than the repetition of teaching it. I also loved how we reframed and named her personal brand as being energized by solving complex problems through research-driven strategy, process optimization, and cross-functional collaboration. And then handing off the system so that she can tackle the next challenge, because that is the zone of her genius. And that's what she wants to be known for. And then there was a shift where I saw her trusting her own wiring. It came from connecting the dots, from zooming out and naming what's always been true, and then realizing like, yeah, this is who I am, and this is how I work best, and this kind of work is what I'm meant to do. And now when she thinks about what does that next level in my career look like, she can design that around her spark, around her zone of genius. And it is so clear that Anna belongs in a senior strategic operation role, probably in marketing, where she gets to architect solutions, diagnose problems, research deeply, build systems, optimize processes, align teams, and then hand it off so that she can conquer the next challenge. Roles that come to mind for me where she could live in that zone of genius are Director of Marketing Operations and Transformation, or Director of Marketing Strategy and Operations, or Director of Marketing Process Improvement. Roles where the marketing machine is big, messy, cross-functional, and always evolving. And the marketing ops and transformation roles, they're often fueled by questions like, why is this funnel broken? How can we scale this? What's slowing down revenue? What system or process needs to be rebuilt? And those are the roles where she would get to build the systems and then hand them off. So she can own the creation and not the maintenance. She truly needs roles where there's always a new challenge and not a feeling of stagnation. And the reason why one of the roles that comes to mind for me are the marketing ops and transformation leader roles is exactly because they're often constantly assigned new foundational challenges, optimizing a lead lifecycle, rebuilding a campaign architecture, implementing new MarTech tools, fixed reporting, optimizing demand gen processes, all of those, all this really fun stuff of figuring it out. She will thrive in any career that allows her to constantly figure it out and live in her zone of genius. Okay, now let's take a breath. That was a big conversation today, right? Anna walked away with deep clarity about her spark, that she's a problem solver at her core. She walked away with a new lens for viewing her past roles and understanding why some things energize her and others drained her. She also now has a clear direction for the types of roles and environments she thrives in. And she has a new level of trust in her own way of working. This isn't about reinventing yourself. It is about seeing yourself clearly. And that's the beauty and the power of this work. So if you're sitting here and thinking, that sounds like me, or I felt that same dip after the exciting part is over in one of my last roles, or I've always thrived when I'm given a big messy challenge, then my friend, you are just wired that way. You're brilliant and you're probably ready for career clarity. So here's what I'd love for you to do next. Book a free consultation call with me. We're going to spend 30 minutes together diving into what it is that energizes and drains you and how you can do more of that in your work. We'll dive into what drives you, what drains you, and what are the best next steps for your career journey. The link to book a free call with me is in the show notes, and you want to make sure you grab your spot while it's still available. And please know, you don't have to settle for it's fine. You can find work that fits how you're wired. The world needs you in the roles that are in the zone of your genius. We need you. So please find what makes you come alive and find the roles that allow you to do more of it. Thank you for listening today. Please send me a DM or email if anything in this episode sparked something for you, because I just absolutely love hearing from you. And don't forget to join me again next week for another episode full of insights, inspiration, and actionable advice on finding a career you love, because you don't have to settle. Please keep chasing what makes you come alive, and I will see you back here next week on Career Clarity Unlocked. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Career Clarity Unlocked. If you're feeling stuck in that what's next spiral and are ready to finally break free, let's chat. You can book your free career clarity call where we'll uncover what's really important to you, tackle any obstacles holding you back, and map out your best next step. schedule your free 30-minute call today on careerbloomcoaching.com. And before you head out, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you never miss an episode. If today's conversation gave you new insights and inspiration, please leave a review. It really helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend or on social media. Your support truly means the world. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time.